What's up? This is a new season, a new place, and a new way. A lot is happening and changing in the world currently. Um, and I'm excited for it. I'm excited for it because you and I, you and I, my friend, get to be a part of a lot of that change. See, life is in constant flux, and so are you and I. I think it was Marcus. I'm gonna butcher the second part. Marcus Aurelius. Aurelius. Let me. I have it down there somewhere. Some guy named Marcus. I can't see far enough. It's kind of dark back there. Marcus. Um. Yeah. And it's a shame on me because I know the guy with stoicism and all of that. Because I read or am reading a lot of these not contemporaries, these more dated. Dated is not the word to be using here. These older, more antique pieces of thought. And as I was saying, life and you, my friend, are in constant flux. I think it was Marcus, if I can remember his last name and pronounce it properly, who said that you never step into the same river twice. Is is it him? Is that who that is attributed to? I will confirm. Nonetheless, you really do never step into the same river twice. This is not only true on a personal level, not only true on a cultural level, and not only true on a societal and greater theme level. No, my friends. This is true all throughout because time only moves in one direction, and that is forward. We can only see it in retrospect and only experience it in the present. But in reality, it only moves in one direction, and that is forward. How then do we navigate these ever changing landscapes? Landscapes in the people that we interact with, landscapes in the spaces that we find ourselves in, landscapes of the times in which we exist. How do we navigate these ever changing realities? This is the new core question of my life. The contexts in which we all exist, whether that is culturally and more specifically culturally, and even more specifically in the African context. Especially also in the African thought of interpersonal contexts. I am taking these spaces that I have been putting time and effort into, and I am looking to focus them into more impactful and honestly more true to self directions. I want to understand how we can best understand each other culturally, politically, historically, and in all other aspects of life. I'm interested in the context of who you are, and also in the context of who we are, you and me. Even more specifically, who I am as an African, who you are as an African, who we are as Africans. I think it is high time that we define these methods, ways of existing. I think it is time that we do. Because there is a whole nation, and I'm speaking about the African nation here, who is lost and yearning, me included, to understand self. And I believe that even more devastating than those of us, even more devastating is the state of being that many Africans find themselves in, being outside or off of the African continent and having to redefine self in a new context that might not be very favorable to their Africanness, and having to redefine themselves in contexts that might not even want them to define themselves, especially not as Africans. And these, our brothers and sisters in the diaspora, now remain as a final hope for Africa and the future of Africa, politically, financially, economically, politically, socially, culturally. And this is what I want to point and focus my spaces, the spaces that I exist in, my thoughts, my time, my energy, my resources towards. I want to focus myself into or on defining the contexts that make us African, and I want to create spaces where Africans, no matter where they are, where they're from, their history or their historical connection to Africa, can find themselves and define themselves, and even go a further step and redefine themselves, which I believe is the most important aspect, more especially to the diaspora. Redefining ourselves as Africans is going to be key. And that is what I want to take my time, effort, energy, thoughts, entire being and focus on. Because this Africa that we're living on, or living in currently, is not the Africa that it should be. This giant that is fast asleep has been tranquilized and beaten and bruised. This Africa is still alive. And we, you and I, no matter where you find yourself right now, can still save it. I'm going to close out this new format by saying or speaking to very shortly our recent or the recent elections that took place here in South Africa, where I am currently. It has been very inspirational to watch to watch a phoenix rise from the ashes. This phoenix in Jacob Zuma. And not only Jacob Zuma, the man, the person, but it has been extremely inspiring to watch and see the re-emergence of a I'm not wanting to use the word inspiration so much, of a spearhead, pun intended, of a spearhead of the African revolutionary movement in the MK party. That has been very inspirational to see that the revolution, the true revolution, still continues. And on that, my closing remarks, in the words of the late Nelson Mandela, my closing remarks are "A luta continua." And I am very inspired as a Congolese refugee in South Africa to see that "A luta continua." This African continent will be free. And I am glad to see that it is not only me or those like me who want to see this and who are working actively to see this. That is inspiring. But until okay, I guess maybe I should also close it out by keeping the format and making some announcements here. I'm sure you might have noticed that the space is evolving and changing and in constant flux, as I mentioned in the beginning here. But I also want to mention that I will not be doing a daily stream anymore, because this new direction and this new call that I'm beckoning to requires that I focus myself even more than I have ever. And that will mean learning from antiquity, learning from my contemporaries, from my peers, from my leaders, the leaders that came before us, and shaping myself into a spear as well, pun intended, of this great African nation. So I'm going to be streaming on hopefully Mondays and Wednesdays, but a little less often. I've spent close to a month since being in a very violent way drawn out of myself into myself. I am, in the Nietzschean sense, experiencing and undergoing, a downgoing, I mean. Look at this. If you can see my hand. I am electrified right now because I feel my hand is literally shaking. Not because I'm feeling cold, I'm actually pretty warm, dressed up to the T, but because I'm so electrified, I feel in place. I'll continue. I will apologize for the sound cutting in and going out. Haven't been here for a while. I haven't been able to stream for a while. I've been on a down going. But the technical aspects of this will continue to improve as I shape my thoughts, shape my technical prowess, and go towards my purpose. Thank you if you still are paying attention, and if you've been paying attention up until this point. I am going to be a lot different from what you have seen and heard before. I'm going to speak a lot different from what you have seen and heard before. And I appreciate you for going on this journey with me if you are still up until this point. I appreciate you, and as always, adieu, adios, and to God.